Hello, Jessica with Kensington Valley CrossFit, and welcome to Fun with Squash. I get made fun of pretty much every fall for the amount of squash that I eat and the types of squash that I eat because I eat weird things that look like this, that looks like it should be part of a holiday decoration. So what I'd like to go through today is quickly what squash I like, how I use it, and how I would cook it. So let's start with something everybody knows. Pumpkin. It is a pie pumpkin, not a carving pumpkin, a pie pumpkin. There's a difference. So I love to actually cook this, and I will cook it and eat it. I don't puree it most of the time. Most of the time I just eat it in chunks. I will put a little cashew or almond milk with it. I will put some pumpkin pie spice, maybe a little stevia, and make just like, I guess, a little dessert type, maybe a pre-pumpkin pie pumpkin. So I will cut it in half. Take out the seeds, lay it face down on a sheet pan, and I will cook this probably for about 50 minutes or so. You can tell the skin will start to come off the meat of the pumpkin, and yeah, I love it. So especially in the fall time. Next up, one that people have seen, spaghetti squash. So spaghetti squash is a great alternative as a vegetable. First, I use spaghetti squash with, as you described, spaghetti. So I'll use it with sauce. I'll use it with meatballs in sauce, spaghetti sauce, marinara. But I will also use my spaghetti squash as the base for a lot of other things to go on top of it. Spaghetti squash has a neutral flavor. So it can pretty much go with anything. I've done some baked casseroles with it, stuff like that. So you'll catch me putting literally sloppy joes on it, the filling from chicken pot pie. Again, just a great source. So this is considered a vegetable, even though it's a fruit. It's little lower on the carbohydrate side, so eat as much as you want. Same thing, cut in half, take out the seeds, face down on a sheet pan. I'd probably cook this little guy for maybe about 40 minutes or so. Press your thumb on it, and if it will make a small indent, squash is done. If it's still firm, not quite done. If it pushes way in, you cooked it too long. So I love spaghetti squash, especially in the fall, because I know that they're fresh. So next up, butternut squash, something that people are probably accustomed to because they can find it in the store. Butternut squash is a little bit sweeter. It has a little more carbs, a little more fruity kind of than the other two or the other spaghetti squash. Love cutting this one up, dicing it, putting it on a sheet pan. This one, I do not just half. The skin on this one is a little bit different than most of the other squashes. It will not just come off easy. So I always peel the spaghetti squash first. I will cut it and usually cube it. Love it with some cinnamon and salt, a little bit of oil. Yeah, that's pretty much it. This makes a great fall dish, especially mixed with a couple of the other squashes that I'm going to show you here in just a minute. So this is a sister of an acorn squash. I don't actually remember what it's called, but I saw the description of it and I was like, yep, I need to have this. I don't have an acorn squash to show you, but it's basically green like this. This is sweeter than all the squash I've mentioned so far. This is probably the sweetest of the squash that I have listed here. This is great. My mom used to cook this when we were little. She would cut it in half, take out the seeds, put a little butter, cinnamon, sugar. Yeah. And then when it was done, essentially just stir it up or puree it inside the skin itself, and she would serve it to each of us on a plate. So we would get half a squash and with a little bit of butter and cinnamon sugar. Really awesome. I love it plain. I love it with a little bit of butter. This would serve as a replacement for potatoes, rice, whatever carb you're having. So love it. Haven't had this one yet. This is probably one of my favorite squashes, something you'd probably never ever buy. I cannot pronounce it. Delicatata, maybe. But it's a firm squash similar to the butternut. Cut it in half, face down. This little guy probably gets cooked for maybe like 25 minutes on 400. Everything else is on 400 too. Sweet, firm. Really enjoy this squash. I never really had it until I saw the description of it, and I love it. So I would easily take this squash and my butternut, roast them both, dice them, and put them in and make a fall base or fall salad to go along with something else I'm eating. And last but not least, my Buttercup. I actually really enjoy this squash. No one would probably ever buy it. There's another one similar to it, Japanese pumpkin, as it's known. This is a firm, kind of flaky squash, so I enjoy the texture and the flavor when it's roasted. I would cut it in half, seeds out, pan. This little guy, probably the same as the pumpkin, probably 45 minutes to 50, depending on how your oven cooks. I really enjoy it. It's not as firm as these other two that I mentioned, so it's not really super great for cubing, but I do enjoy it. Again, a little mash. It's flaky, sweeter, somewhere between this one and this one. But again, something you'd look at and never buy. Enjoy it. Yeah, put it on the side. I love squash in the fall. Everybody makes fun of me. I appreciate all the squash and all the love I have for my little squashes. So here I am disrupting the internet with some squash videos. Go out, get them. If you need to know or have questions on squash, let me know.